Imagine sitting in a tiny concrete cell, facing a life sentence, and holding on to a single, dull cafeteria spoon and secret for 27 years. Your goal is to break out of a facility designed to ensure no one leaves alive, and you are going to attempt it without a single explosive and without a single gun. Your target is the most heavily fortified island of the 1960s, Alcatraz. On one side, you have millions in industrial security and a fortress built into solid rock. On the other, you have a small piece of stamped metal from the mess hall. Inside this fortress, the physical barriers were absolute. Inmates were locked behind thick iron bars, in a tightly controlled block, under the constant watch of armed guards. But the real defense system was outside. The island sat entirely isolated in the bay, surrounded by freezing water and violent rapid currents that guaranteed anyone who slipped in would drown. None of that mattered to an inmate named Frank Morris. He looked at the supposed perfection of the system and refused to believe it was unbeatable. He recruited 2 accomplices, and together they spent an entire year quietly mapping out an exit. The prison administration trusted their concrete walls and their armed guards, but Morris recognized a blind spot. The guards expected loud, sudden violence. They weren't looking for a year of patient, silent work. Every single day, they took those stolen metal cafeteria spoons and began incrementally chipping away at the deteriorating concrete around their cell air vents. This required microscopic precision. They had to scrape away the walls so slowly that the friction wouldn't produce a sound loud enough for a passing guard to notice. To hide whatever faint noise they made, they timed their digging with the evening music hour, using their cell radios to mask the sound of the metal against the stone. After 12 months of relentless scraping, those tiny flakes of concrete added up to a hole just large enough for a grown man to squeeze his shoulders through. They turned everyday, permitted routines, like eating their lunch and listening to the radio, into cover for their excavation. Patience became their primary tool. But getting out of the cell was only the first step. They needed enough time to actually navigate the island before the guards noticed their beds were empty during the nighttime head counts. So they built decoys. Using soap, toilet paper, and real human hair swept from the prison barber shop, they sculpted lifelike dummy heads. When they placed these heads on their pillows and tucked in the blankets, the low-light trick worked. The guards walked right by. Meanwhile, the men squeezed through wall vents to a maintenance corridor, climbed pipes to the roof, and shimmied down the exterior to the water. To survive, they deployed a makeshift raft stitched from 50 raincoats, inflating it and pushing out into the dark. The prison was bypassed by men using the very survival items the administration had provided to keep them alive. When the morning bell rang and the guards finally tried to wake the sleeping men, they reached in and touched chunks of painted soap. The FBI immediately launched a massive, years-long manhunt to track down the escapees, but the investigation hit a wall. Search teams never found a body to confirm they drowned in the bay, yet they never uncovered a single piece of hard evidence proving they made it to land. Whether the men survived or died in the water, the reputation of the prison had changed. For the first time, impossible had been replaced by a permanent question mark. The trail stayed cold for over 50 years. Then, in 2013, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Police Department. The author claimed to be an 83-year-old Frank Morris. He wrote that his 2 partners had died years ago and that he was currently battling cancer. He offered to reveal his location and surrender, but only in exchange for medical treatment. Investigators analyzed the document, but the results were inconclusive. They could never prove the letter's authenticity, and the case remains officially unsolved today. The story suggests that even a massive, rigid system has a weakness, provided you have a year of patience and a piece of metal.